short tonight, right, Kathleen?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, are you folks ready?
Motion to adjourn?
6:03 p.m. Okay, the regular meeting for the Moana Kaka'ako Neighborhood Board 11 will now come to order. The purpose of the neighborhood board system is to encourage civic engagement. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Test. Everyone online, and thank you to the people here who heard that. Again, we are coming to order for the regular meeting of the Moana Kaka'ako Neighborhood Board. Thank you, Spencer from Olelo, for reminding me of the mic. We appreciate that. The purpose of the neighborhood board is to encourage civic engagement and to ensure that our neighborhoods that we live in daily are a great place to live, play, work, and thrive. We will start with our roll call. Ms. Camilla Gomes.
Okay. Chang,
Present.
Chi, here, Chung, not here, Davis, Barinas, Behringer, not here, Chair Lee,
Present.
Mariano, Rice, not here, Vanderbrink. 6 members present. You have quorum.
Okay, thank you. On to public safety reports. Honolulu Fire Department, are they here tonight? Okay, they did submit a report online, so I believe that's on our Google Drive. Thank you, Ms. Gomes, for having that. Honolulu Police Department, we have Officer Mochizuki.
Hello. So first thing, we'll start with the stats. Let's see, share this. Okay. So that's the area that comprises this neighborhood board, as far as I know, and here are the comparison stats from 23, 24, and 25 as of the 18th of this month. Any questions on those? Am I coming through?
Board questions on it, on the slide that's currently up? Okay, no questions from the board.
Okay, let's see. I stopped sharing. Anyway. In regard to some follow-ups from the last meeting, I did speak with the valet at Yanagi Sushi, and I did ask them to speak with the owners or at least the management in regard to monitoring the sidewalk and possibly putting up some signage to remind patrons to not block the sidewalk as it creates a hazard. I did let them know that if the complaints continue, then we'd have to monitor and just start citing the patrons. As much as we don't really want to go that route, that would be one of the options we could take, hopefully one of the last options. I don't think there was anything else to follow up on. I disseminated all the other requests and concerns regarding specific details to those respective details. And I kind of leave it to them to manage that as far as follow-up.
Sergeant Mochizuki, thank you. Questions from the board? Member Farinas.
Hi, Sergeant Mochizuki. Just wanted to really mahalo you for that, and I will definitely let my neighbor know. She was in attendance at last month's meeting, and it greatly means a lot to her, especially as someone with a disability. So truly appreciate you. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you. Member Mariano, and then Member Vanderbrink.
Yeah, thank you for that stats. The property damage, does that include graffiti?
It does actually. Sorry, I separately ran those stats. It's on the desktop now, so you're not going to be able to see it. But I ran for the month of May. We had 4 criminal property damage cases. 2 were CPD 3 graffiti, and 2 were CPD 4 graffiti. For some reason, when I populate the map, it only shows 3 of those. But if you want specific addresses, I do have those for those cases.
Yeah, I don't think we need the addresses, but just make sure that the area is covered because I think in District 2 and District 1, there's a proliferation of lots of graffiti and some of it private property. So I would see if that's covered under property damage. But then also if it's public, then we need to make sure that we're totally aware of it.
So of the ones in May, what I'm looking at, I believe only one was on public property. Yeah, I believe the rest were all private property. But it seems like people are doing a better job of reporting it and so we can document those cases. And I'll just run until one of our support details decides to actually add that to the monthly stats. I'll just run it myself prior to the meeting. If it's me attending, I'll let the other sergeant know that if he can run it so as to ensure to update you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members with questions? Sorry, Member Vanderbrink.
Hi, Officer Mochizuki. So I just had a few quick questions. I
Yes.
recently attended the, thank you. So I recently attended the Waikiki Neighborhood Board meeting and the officer there got into how many patrol officers patrol Waikiki, which he mentioned was 10 to 12 depending on day or night. For our areas, for the Ala Moana Kaka'ako area, can you give us any numbers on how many officers patrol it on a day or nightly basis?
I don't know if I'm allowed to give what we consider our minimum staffing number, but I can say that typically you're looking at 20 or above officers on both shifts. 20 for each shift, sorry. Worded that poorly.
And that's patrol officers, so like one officer per car normally.
Correct. Yeah. And that's not to include support units such as Fourth Watch that often help out in the Chinatown area or district-wide, depending on what's going on that day. Our bike detail, our bike ATV detail takes a lot of the park stuff. But they're all over. That's kind of the extent of our. Oh, we also have our Chinatown task force that concentrates on the Chinatown area. So at most, you're looking at upwards of maybe 35 officers if it's like a really, well-staffed period of time. But generally speaking, on patrol, specifically assigned to patrol, you're looking at about 20.
Okay, that's definitely good to know. I know recently HPD officer shortages have been in the news and talked about the city council. Has that affected our district to any extent or any major extent?
Uh, Without speaking out of turn, how can I word this? I don't believe so. I've been in this district for 13 years, and actually our staffing is better than it's ever been. But with that said, there is room to do better. Trying to give a political answer here, and not step on
No, I
anyone's toes.
understand.
But yes, when I 13 years ago when I was on patrol, you were looking at approximately 4 less officers on patrol for the entire district, which is a sizable number. It doesn't sound like a lot. It's just 4 people, but every additional unit helps. And with that said, yes, there is room for improvement. So,
Hey, that's good to hear. It helps us give us an idea about the HPD presence in our neighborhood, since I know we just normally see the occasional car or two when we're on the road. I did just want to ask about 2 specific crime instances in the neighborhood. The first being the shooting near the District nightclub on Kapiolani on June 15th. I heard that there was no one identified as firing the gun there because no one was seen firing a gun. They just heard it. I just wanted to find out if that's still the case.
I did not follow up on that case, and I would be limited on information I could release on that. But I can I can tell the sergeant that's going to attend the next meeting to follow up on that, and then, well, I'll follow up, and then I'll ask him to give that info to you if that's okay.
Yep, that's totally fine.
Okay.
And the last one was the Koalu Dog Park. There was vandalism there, I believe, a few months ago. I didn't hear anything about if any suspects were apprehended for that. I was just wondering, has there has there been any suspects apprehended? And if not, is the case still open?
So no suspects have been apprehended last I checked. Right after the last meeting, I checked with our misdemeanor follow-up detail, and the officer in charge of that case said at this time, the disposition of the case is pending further development. So it's not technically open, but if they get any new leads, i.e. surveillance, witnesses, or anything like that, then they would reopen the case and investigate again.
Like, so it sounds like you guys haven't been able to identify anyone, so it's just the case, for the lack of better words, is gonna sit on the sidelines unless new information comes forward.
Unfortunately, that's pretty much exactly what it is. Yes, correct.
I understand. That's all my questions. Thank you, officer.
Thank you, Member Vanderbrink and Sergeant Mochizuki, for your report this evening. Okay, and I do want to acknowledge Member Rice's arrival, 6:08 p.m. Let's go back to the Honolulu Fire Department and their report.
Okay, sorry for the delay, ladies and gentlemen. We had an emergency we just came from. For Station 2, sorry. Good evening. My name is Captain Randall Gibo. I'm with the Moana Fire Station Engine 2. This is the report for June 2025. There was a previous requested question, I believe. It says, I think the question was, what can be done about delivery truck parking in front of fire hydrants behind the Don Quixote store last month? And I guess the answers that we got is, HFD does not regulate parking. If you guys need any assistance with that, you guys can just contact HPD and they'll probably work on that issue, yeah. Okay, so the statistics for last month of May 2025, 4 nuisance fires, 17 activated alarms. We had 148 medicals, went to 9 vehicle collisions and 1 ocean rescue. Our fire safety tip for the month, it's actually not a safety tip, but it is an announcement of the Honolulu Fire Department website. The Honolulu Fire Department is excited to announce the launch of 2 new public data tools on its official website at fire.honolulu.gov, the Incident Trend Dashboard and the Fire Response Search Tool. So the Incident Trend Dashboard gives residents easy access to 5 years of emergency data by neighborhood, including fire, rescue, medical, and hazmat incidents. With interactive maps and charts, the dashboard helps communities better understand emergency trends in their areas. The Fire Response Search Tool replaces the previous Response Mapping Tool, which is no longer supported and was recently taken offline. This tool enables individuals and entities to look up specific emergency incidents in which they have an interest in or may have been involved in or affected by. This tool also enhances transparency and provides residents with efficient and direct access to incidents in a secure and accessible format. Developed by the Honolulu Fire Department Planning and Development Division with the help from a City and County of Honolulu Ho'okela Fellows intern, these data tools reflect our ongoing commitment to transparency, innovation, and community engagement. To access data tools, please visit fire.honolulu.gov/news-and-info/. Any questions?
Thank you, Captain Gibo. Member Vanderbrink.
Hi, thank you for being here. I had a question related to a fire at Kaka'ako Homes, I
Yes.
believe about 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
So my building is actually across from that, so I had a kind of bird's eye view of the situation. And, I'd just like to commend the firefighters that were there. I saw they were there within a minute. I think the fire was put out within a couple minutes of the alarm going off. So I think that was really great. But one concern I did have was from my vantage point, I saw quite a few people in the windows of the apartment complex, especially above it, that didn't evacuate, even when I saw flames in the window. And I feel like this may be due to the fact that the Kaka'ako homes had fire alarms constantly going off for the last several months, and it might have made the residents think that this was another false alarm. So they might not have evacuated, or they might just have pushed it off and saying it's just another false alarm. Why am I going to go down to the street for this? So I don't really have a question there, but I think it's just a concern that when we have these situations of fire alarms that are malfunctioning and then we actually do have a fire event, it can really lead to loss of life if it does get out of control. But I am really glad that your firefighters were there to put it out so expeditiously.
No, that's a good concern because we actually did go to that fire, and you must live like on like Kanunu, I mean, like Kapilani Towers or
The Holiday Manor, right?
oh, Holiday Man. Okay, yeah. So it's like right down the road from there. So yeah, I was on like on the ninth floor, and it is surprising. And I shouldn't say it's like the boy who kind of cried wolf. And after a few times throughout the years, people will get numb to the fact that it is false. Yeah, but it is a concern to us because people don't take it seriously. And when it actually works, when there is a serious issue, people still don't take it seriously. They just kind of look at me like, oh no, it looks fine. It's just another false alarm. But we do have plans in place where we do send firefighters on the floor above and several floors above to make sure that the people, especially right above the fire unit, is not being directly affected. Yeah, because that's usually the first rooms to get affected is right above the fire unit or the two neighboring units. Yeah. So in our plan, we do send other companies to search that floor and make sure that no one is suffering from any kind of smoke inhalation or that the fire hasn't spread to the floor above. Yeah. Good question. And I think, gentlemen, did you have a question also, sir?
Sir, can you go up to the
Oh.
mic?
Oh,
We just need you on the mic. Make sure everyone on mic properly hear.
Okay, my name is Ian Washburn. I'm 419 Atkinson Drive, Sunset Towers in Atkinson neighborhood. And my question is, we notice over the years, a lot of emergency first responders going to the YMCA, our neighbors at 401 Atkinson. Is there any way to get an official list of like how many times, like over the, let's say 2024, can we get is there public access to information like, okay, there were so many ambulance responses, so many fire responses? Because we often see your heavy truck, the hook and ladder, et cetera. And is there a way to get that?
good question, sir. So I have not been able to go on top of this HFD emergency trend dashboard yet, but from my understanding, it will offer the residents of the community a way to access where a lot of the incidents do take place within your neighborhood. So if you want to take down this address right here, fire.
Can I take a picture?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. And apologies, Member Mariano, you had a question.
Sir.
Yeah. With the 4th of July coming up in a couple of weeks, there's a lot of brush that's been dried out, lots of vacant homes. Wonder if you could work with the city council and maybe try to get a public address that goes out to notify not only here in our neighborhood, but also across Oahu, the fires and the safety things that should be done for fireworks.
I can send the email to our CRR, which is our Community Risk Reduction, and see if they can actually, thank you, sir. And see if they can put out public service announcements. And we just hope people use better judgment in these times because of especially what happened in Maui, a few years ago. And, we hope that never, happens over here. But I will send an email to our Community Reduction Center and then have them see if they can send something out. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Member Mariano. Any other questions from the board? Community members? Okay, Captain Gibo, thank you, and the Honolulu Fire Department for being here this evening. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to presentations. Do we have Mr. James Geishan, who was here last month, to present on prosecutorial neglect and community safety concerns? Okay. Moving on to board business, approval of the May 27, 2025 meeting minutes. Do we have any edits, comments, concerns? Member Frinas moves. Member Rice seconds. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. Meeting minutes for May 27, 2025 have been approved. Thank you, board. Attendance at other meetings. Does anyone want to report on attendance at any other meetings that they have attended? Member Vanderbrink.
Uh, Thank you. So I was lucky enough to attend the city council meeting to provide testimony in reference to a resolution that shook up the leadership board there. And I didn't know it at the time, but apparently my testimony made it onto the local news, which was rather embarrassing and exciting at the same time. But I was on the, I guess you could say, losing side of it. I came in opposition to the resolution, but it ended up passing and the leadership board was altered. But I just wanted to say that despite that, I still feel more encouraged to go and provide my testimony for future for future resolutions or bills that are provided there, because I feel like not enough people provide testimony unless it's a high profile bill or resolution like this was. And so oftentimes when I tune into the city council meetings, there's only one or two people that provide oral testimony there, and then the resolution gets voted on, which is, I wish more community members would do it. So I think that's one thing that I would, I want to try and do moving forward, is try and provide more testimony, either orally or writtenly, just to make sure my voices are the city council members who represent me, which would be Councilmember Nishimoto, knows how I feel about it, and they know how a resident in the community, all the council members feel, at least how I feel on the issue, because that's all we can hope for. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Vanderbrink, for that testimony and for being involved in the process. Any other board members? Okay, moving on to Action Committee report with Member Emma Davis, who is our Action Committee Chair.
Thanks. We had a really good Action Committee meeting, I think, last time, mostly to kind of talk about transitioning Action Committee as I depart. But we had one community member also show up, and we kind of ran through a bunch of different issues in wanting to continue talking about them and make sure they're kind of in the continuing conversation, depending on who kind of takes over that role as Action Committee Chair. One of those is the ongoing discussion for dogs in parks. Again, we've been asked by the Department of Parks and Recreation to kind of get some community input on dogs in parks according to their current plan, and potentially future input on Ala Moana Beach Park. That is still active, and we have a QR code for that, or a link if anybody hasn't, or to distribute to other people that you know. Both people who do and don't own dogs are important parts of that conversation. So continuing to share that. They asked for us to provide feedback by the end of August, so we'll probably keep that up and running through July and into the new board term. Other than that, we also talked about potentially continuing a neighborhood board newsletter, or just reintroducing people in the new cycle to what the neighborhood board is, and really pushing, like Dale said, and like we've been continuing to talk about, increasing the amount of community involvement at this level, because it's really an entry point for people to kind of access what's going on in the community. So, encouraging that, we'll continue to work with those on the Action Committee to kind of draft some of that you guys can use moving forward. In just, what does the neighborhood board do? and why should people be involved? And hopefully that's going to be a kind of a driving force of encouraging people to participate in local government. We also talked about small business thefts, which was brought to us by Sugar Sugar Hawaii, and just kind of some of the prosecutorial, thank you. That's a good one. The prosecutorial process for that and some of the challenges that we're seeing. We talked about vacant lots quite a bit. And that one we're working on, or Dale is undertaking, potentially turning that conversation into a potential resolution for the board, and potentially talking about either a tax on vacant lots, and then a reduction in that tax if they allow that the vacant lots to be used by the community or provide a community service. So just an incentive to encourage people to either build and continue on with their projects, or, for the community to get a benefit out of it in the interim, when we can use that land and it's not being underutilized when we have such a need for it. We then talked about, so we talked about, I have my notes. We talked about graffiti a little. Because I know it's been a big thing for Member Moriano. And we talked about, there was one other big thing, Dale, that our member brought up. That was vacant lots, but we talked about one thing before vacant lots. Do you remember? It was graffiti, maybe. It all kind of got tied together. It was a very flowing conversation, and I encourage anybody to come to the action committee meetings, because they are very kind of open-ended and able to encourage people to kind of problem solve a little bit more than we're able to do in these meetings. So if you haven't attended an action committee meeting, it won't be led by me anymore, but I really, really encourage people to do it. And a lot of the best solutions come from the community. So we encourage people to participate. Those are kind of the current topics that are ongoing, and will continue into July. Anybody else that attended have anything to add? Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Member Davis. So the way we picked out the chair of the action committee was very informal. We all got together and we were like, who wants to do it? And that's how it went about. I'm going to keep up with that process just because, again, the action committee is run independently by the board. We don't get assistance from NCO or Olelo during those times. So the process of, figuring out who's going to spearhead it is informal, but very important. So does anyone on the board want to step up and be the chair of the action committee?
Can I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
Since we're going to have a new board in 1 month, I would suggest we table that to next month, and then hopefully we'll have some volunteers.
Okay, Member Davis?
Only reason I suggest an interim for July is because of the ongoing survey with dogs in parks, just to kind of continue that conversation. So I have a nomination, or if anybody wants to.
I'll just volunteer myself.
Okay.
Because that's what you were going to do anyway. Right?
Okay, anyone else? Okay, so are we good with second Vice Chair Rice as the interim chair until we meet next month, and then we'll do the process? Okay, awesome. This is great. We're such a democratic board. We also had a vice chair for the action committee. Would anyone on the board currently like to volunteer as the interim? What? Member Vanderbrink. Okay, so now for our action committee chair for July, we will have members Rice and Vanderbrink as chair and vice chair. Thank you, board. And we'll continue that conversation.
Yeah.
Member Mariano.
Manager, just a clarification. The action committee can also be just not members of the board, but can also be residents. So if you're interested, active participation is where it's at, because the committee comes up, for example, if there's a project or an event that wants to come up, they could discuss it at the action committee. The action committee can take that for discussion and then make a recommendation to the board to see if we will pursue forward, or in the case that they may need a resolution could be submitted to the board for voting. So this is a way for all residents to be active participants. I think that's what Member Davis said earlier. So I just wanted to make the clarification.
Mariano, thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it. Okay, so moving on to consideration of the resolution regarding the Korean language program for public school students within the Kaimuki McKinley Roosevelt complex. So this was a resolution that was drafted by a student named Jessica Lee in February 2025. Bringing this up to the board for consideration. I also want to point out that a couple of other boards have submitted this resolution as well, and they are the Makiki and Manoa boards. So so board members, if you could review that. So we've had that since February. I'll just go ahead and kind of skim through it. This resolution is requesting the Department of Education to expand the Korean language program for public school students within the Kaimuki McKinley Roosevelt complex. And you can see the whereas on there. In the interest of time, we'll leave the resolution up for people to be able to read. The board members also have a hard copy, and it is also on our Google Drive. I have a couple of non-technical suggestions. One being McKinley being misspelled on the first part, and taking out regular session of 2025 in regards to the Ala Moana Kaka'ako Neighborhood Board in the third paragraph, just because we don't really have regular sessions. But aside from those non-substantive edits, board members, do you have any edits, comments? Member Davis.
More of a question for either any representatives from our senator's office or state house. Both of the bills seem to have died in committee in both the House and for the similar bill. And I'm just wondering if you can provide a little bit of insight on if you know anything on reasoning, or just kind of the mindset at the state level right now, because that's where the funding would most likely have to come from. So we got to talk to you.
Just to be clear, this resolution is just to say that we support the intent to put this in, because it really goes through the Department of Education at the state, because they have to look at that as a curriculum and also put the mandates and the criterion for submitting of a language. So if we were to adopt this resolution, we're just saying that we agree with it with the intent, but not trying to force it, because it has to go through the normal wickets up to the Department of Education for approval. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Member Mariano. On that note, with what Member Davis and what Member Mariano said, I would suggest to strike out any reference to the bills that did not pass, especially since this was introduced in February. Again, as Member Mariano had mentioned, we are supporting the intent of the bill. Member Chang.
Yeah. Normally when we see some of these types of resolutions, we get a little more statistics in there, and it's pretty light on statistics other than most popular. Interest is growing. I think if we had a little bit more actual facts as opposed to feelings or would like nice to have, as Member Mariano said. So I commend her for doing this, but for my taste, I think it needs to have a little bit more facts in there, especially if you want us to do a resolution I'm not in favor of doing resolutions only on a feel-good thing. Yeah, thanks.
Here, thank you, Member Chang. Your comments from the board. Okay, with that, we could either make a motion to vote on this or have it tabled for the next board meeting.
Move to table to the next board.
Okay, Member Rice?
I move to table as well, but perhaps in the interim between now and the next meeting, we can reach out to Ms. Lee and get some of the facts that Member Chang is suggesting, and I do as well.
Member
Okay.
Rice noted.
I
Thank you.
guess I am. Thank you.
Board, thank you as always for your input. Let us move on to, oh, sorry. Oh, that was it. Okay, thank you. Moving on to 4.5, acknowledgement of outgoing and incoming board members. So just to let everyone know, this is going to be the last meeting for the 2023-2025 Neighborhood Board 11. And we do want to thank everyone for always coming out. New board members were sworn in over the weekend, and we're excited to have them on board. And I also want to acknowledge the entire board. I know Larry Beret, who is the chair of the Pearl City Board, and I'm going to paraphrase what he said. He talked about how boards are effective when they talk to each other because we're neighbors. And I think this has what has made this board very successful. Like I always know what is on each board member's mind, whether it's Member Mariano calling me, Member Chang sending me an email, Member Rice both texting and emailing, Member Davis texting, same with Member Farinas and Member Vanderbrink. Everyone's very active on text, email, and calls. So this is why I know that this is how we're able to move forward. With that being said, I thank the 2023-2025 board for all your service. We do have outgoing members, and I would like for you to say a few words because it looks like we have a lot of time for this meeting. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Member Davis first, who, we wish her well as she moves on to grad school in another country, but also, it is bittersweet. So Member Davis, I will pass on the mic to you.
Oh man, I didn't prepare anything. I think the biggest thing I want to say is just a deep appreciation and sense of gratitude for the opportunity to learn from being on the board, and to get to know community members more and to better understand local government and its complexity. I heard a quote somewhere the other day, and I wish I could quote the person, but it's like, I'm always skeptical of simple solutions to complex problems. And I think that's something I've really learned from being on the board. It's very easy to have an opinion, and I think we hear them a lot from different sides. And, sometimes there is a simple solution, but I think when you really start to understand the layers that go on and the funding and all of the people involved, it does get more complex. And, I'm thankful to have had the opportunity to learn that lesson, to try and better understand how we can be more effective as a community. And again, I come back to the sentiment of public participation in local government is just so important. I think a lot of us participate at the federal and even the state level, but very few people are really truly participating at the local level. And I think the more that we can encourage each other to do that and encourage people to participate in a smaller scale, we really get the ground up governance that, we're hoping for, that can be really effective for people along the path. So yeah, thank you to everyone who's, helped me understand and had in-depth conversations with me about different passion projects so I can better understand them. Yeah, I'm grateful for the learning that I've been able to have from knowing all of you and from getting to know our community and all the presentations from all the different departments and the representatives that show up and give us access to deeper conversation that better our community. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Member Davis. slash Action Committee Chair Davis, we really appreciate all the good work that you've done to further and advance that committee. Moving on to Member Mariano.
But wait. You know, the being on the neighborhood board is something special. I echo what Member Davis has just said. But, you know, this was an experiment done, you know, back in the early 70s, you know, as the eyes and ears for the mayor so that the mayor could hear what the community was thinking and not an elected official. And this was really a great experiment that's continued, a gift that keeps on giving. Because here, whether it be the action committee or with this board, you know, we've come together and you can see that the proactiveness in a non-partisan way, and that's what this whole board is about. It doesn't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, EIO. It's a matter of we, the community. And by having that, we have representatives from the governor's office, state legislatures, and even representatives from the mayor's office. And we have Ben that comes on a continual basis, and he hears the concerns from all of us board members, but mainly from the community, goes back, does the research, and then reports back. So it's not one of those that you come here, we look really nice because we have a lay on or don't have a lay. It's a matter of participation. And the active participation, this is the only place, if you have a candidate that you vote into office, that's really great. But can you actually see that candidate? There's gatekeepers. Whereas the neighborhood board, you can come to this neighborhood board and go to other neighborhood boards, and you have active participation where we have the eyes and ears and the media to have your voices heard. So with that, I'm just so proud to come to the neighborhood board when I'm in town to be active participant in that. And without the rest of the board members that we have here working deliberately as a team, it's really a team of teams to make things happen. It's not the I, it's the we. And this Ala Moana Kaka'ako Neighborhood Board, I commend it for its tenacity and its steadfast resolute to move forward to make things better for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Mariano. Another member who is leaving is Member Carolyn Farringer, who could not be here this evening, but she did mention that she was thankful for being on the board. And for everyone who is out there and online, both the board members that are not leaving will obviously be staying for the 2025-2027 term. With that, we have new board members that are coming in. So I would like for them to say a couple of words to introduce themselves, just so the community knows that it will be you up here in our July meeting. We have Ms. Sherry Rand, who is not here this evening. However, Mr. Quinn Hashimoto is. So if you could come on up to the mic and introduce yourself.
We love putting you guys on the spot since you are incoming board members. So
Good evening, everyone. My name is Quinn Hashimoto. I'm a friend at the Sheridan Street Shingo Mission of Hawaii. I'm very happy to begin working with all of you and all of our members of the community to help improve our neighborhood 11, District 11. And yeah, nice to meet you.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn Hashimoto. Next, we have Mr. Kaili Morala.
Hello, my name's Kaili. I live in the Keamoku area and I go to work down in Kaka'ako, so I've really started to enjoy the neighborhood. And with the people I've met, I've been wanting to serve my community better. So I'm here.
Mr. Morala, thank you for that. And with that, we are moving on. Just as a note, with the departure of Member Davis, there will be a vacancy in Subdistrict 4. So I wanted to give everyone a heads up on that and a potential open seat next month as well. So thank you again, board members, former and new, for being here this evening. Moving on to sub-district reports, we have Second Vice Chair Jeannie Rice from Sub-District 3 to report on 2 issues that she has been passionately pursuing, which we as a neighborhood appreciate.
Thank you. The first issue is McCoy Pavilion, and I want to commend Councilman Nishimoto's office, particularly Sophia Anderson, for being so responsive to me and my emails, my passionate emails. Thank you, Sophia. So if you recall, we were about a year or so ago, I was pushing previous councilman for this district, what's going on with McCoy Pavilion. And unfortunately, his staff didn't get the answers I think we were all hoping for, because the renovation or the rehabilitation of McCoy Pavilion has been going on for close to 5 years. And why so long? Community is missing out on the opportunity to use it for public events or private events, and the city's also losing revenue. And you know, why? Who's dragging their heels and who is being accountable? So just this afternoon, late this afternoon, I got an email from Sophia, and I'd like to share it with everybody. Regarding the McCoy Pavilion Rehabilitation Project, we were just informed by the Moana Regional Park Manager that the project is currently in its final stages of construction. The multi-purpose room, auditorium, and the admin office have already been turned over to the Department of Parks and Recreation, and they are currently awaiting the keys for these area. A pre-final walkthrough of the portico area is scheduled for Thursday, the 26th at 10 a.m. There's no set date for public use or even hosting just yet due to ongoing construction in the courtyard and portico areas, yet we've been assured that updates will be provided as the project nears full completion. And of course, they understand how important this is to everybody. So it was really great to, someone was able to dig and push and get the answers we all wanted. It's just taking way too long, and community members and festival promoters have all been wanting to use it. And nobody knew what was taking so long. So thank you again, Sophia and Councilman Nishimoto, for your help with that. The other thing I'm really excited about is the property of public storage at 1067 Kapiolani Boulevard, which is at Kapiolani and Kamakei Street. And again, property if you drive by or walk by the property, there's virtually no landscaping. It's just dirt. And there's also a large Bicky bike station there as well, and no trash cans. So I'm hoping we can get a trash can there. And Miss Anderson from Councilman Nishimoto's office is pushing with me for that. And maybe there's an alternative means of getting one there, only because there's a bus stop just not even 25 feet away, and there is a trash can there, but for whatever reason, Bicky bike people, renters, just leave their water bottles and their trash there, unfortunately. So I reached out to Craig Nakamoto at Hawaii Community Development Authority, as I did a year or so ago, and asked for his help. And he actually went down to look at the site last week, met with the district manager and the manager, who promised that they're working on a new irrigation system, which is a fancy word for water sprinklers, and a new landscaper, which is what I was told over a year ago. So I also learned from Mr. Nakamoto is that they are in violation of the permit in order to do business in Ward Village, Kaka'ako neighborhood. So I didn't even know about permits and all of that. So they're on notice that they need to spruce up and make their property presentable along Kapiolani Boulevard. It's a real eyesore. I don't know if anybody has looked at it recently. And lastly, Francine Murray, I'm sorry, I'm going to steal your thunder once again. HCDA got a call just late this afternoon from Director Craig Nakamoto about the Koluwalo Dog Park. As most of you know, the large dog section has been closed off for over a month now. It was supposed to open June 9th, but it probably will not open until probably the middle of July. And that's a good thing. It's really allowing the seed to take hold and the sod to connect to the earth. And because we all know the dogs are going to run around and rip it apart. Then there's the question of what happens to the small dog section, which needs some rehabilitation. They're hoping to keep that open with some mesh around some of the muddy areas to allow the grass to grow. Everyone's aware, and while I make my rounds in the morning, I hand out little slips of the QR code for the dog survey that Director Thielen from Parks and Rec has asked us to do. And if any of the other board members, I hope you all have a copy of the QR code and the URL. If not, I will make sure I email that to everybody. Please reach out in your neighborhood. I printed some out, or I just walk around with one and people take photos with their phones and scan the QR code. And we're getting a good response thus far. We have 66 response to the survey so far. So that's pretty good in just about 10 days time. Yeah. So one thing I would like to put on the table, I've been sneaking into Moana Beach Park with my dog. I know it's a big no-no, but I just needed to take him someplace different for new sniffs. And the big thing that I notice in the park, the number one item on the ground, not in waste baskets, are these little plastic bottle caps from so many different kinds of bottles. And one of the things I would love somebody to do, well, two things. One, Miss Davis, Member Davis, had said, why don't we have bottles like they do in Europe where the cap is attached to the bottle? We got rid of plastic bags on Oahu. Why don't we get rid of, have attached bottle caps, which I think is a great idea. Resolution. Okay. I'll work on that. But the other thing is I would like to see, and this is a question for Director Thielen, is if we, Ala Moana Regional Beach Park is a very important part of our community. And I think it might behoove us to have a quarterly cleanup day and come. I know that Friends of Kewalo Basin does that at Kaka'ako Gateway and Waterfront Park with great success. I would like to see that happen. The homeless, the houseless, leave so much trash all over the park. And then just picnickers leave their little bottle caps. Easter, the week after Easter Sunday, where a lot of families go to celebrate and they do Easter egg hunts. For the week following, there was zillions of little plastic egg particles all over the park, which is dangerous for people. We're not wearing shoes, slippers, whatever. And for those who sneak their dogs into the park as well, which there are many. So I would like to work on that and hoping we can get some support from the community as well as the board. And it's the people's park, but let's keep it nice for all the people. Thank you.
Okay, Member Rice, thank you for that report. Any other board members? Member Vanderbrink.
Thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to share about something that happened to me over the last month. To just kind of throw it out there, I was almost hit by a car on 2 separate occasions. And especially since traffic fatalities have been double what they were last year for our island, I do want to kind of share my story and to reiterate as a pedestrian, just to be safe, because a lot of times it's put on the driver, but sometimes drivers aren't paying attention. They're looked at their phone. They assume you're not walking, and you would have to pay a lot more attention even in a crosswalk. So the first instance I want to share is I admit my fault. I was walking along Kalakaua, and a car I thought was pulling out into the road, but it was actually backing up into a parking spot, and I made the mistake of going behind it. It almost backed up into me. I had to jump out of the way. I should have paid more attention and waited, but I hope that sharing that story, others would wait next time instead of going behind a car just because they want to go somewhere. The other instance I think is more important, where I was along Kanunu Street and Pony Street, I believe it is. It's right by the laundromat behind Don Quixote. So if you're ever crossing the street along Kanunu Street right there, you'll notice that there's no stop sign, there's no bumps. It's just a yield to pedestrian, but that can be kind of dangerous because on the Walmart side of Kanunu Street, there's cars coming that the field of view can be obstructed because people park in the no parking zone. On the Kanunu side, when cars are coming, or sorry, on the Kalakaua side, when cars are coming, there's a sharp turn, so cars can often speed up and not see you until they're about 40 or 50 feet away, which if you're a driver, you know, that can be kind of hard to stop if you don't pay attention. But in this instance, where I was almost hit, it was actually neither of those things. Both cars actually stopped on both sides. Me and an older lady with a walker were crossing, and apparently a car was very inconvenienced and waiting behind another car coming from Kalakaua, and they thought the car in front of them was turning left, so they actually tried to go zip around it. And if not for that car in front of them that was honking furiously, they probably would have almost hit us or go zip by about a foot in front of us. So I assume because both cars were stopped that I didn't have to pay attention, that I could just walk straight forward because both lanes were yielded to us already. But I should have paid more attention just because I was in a crosswalk. I shouldn't assume I'm safe, even those in those regards. So I'm not necessarily saying it's my fault because that driver shouldn't have zipped around the other car, but especially with past vehicle fatalities double what they were last year. Anytime you're crossing the street in any regards, please look both ways, pay attention. You can put your phone down for that 30 seconds just to make sure that you don't have any cars that don't notice you're there and might hit you. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Vanderbrink. Member Farinas, and then Member Davis has something to add to what Member Vanderbrink has said.
Just some information for our community. The Hawaii State Housing Public Authority will be opening up their lotteries for Section 8 housing. And it'll start on Monday, June 30th and until Monday, July 7th. So 1 week, and it's throughout for the entire island of Oahu. So please contact them for those who do need assistance. And they also do offer interpreters. So please reach out to them, whoever would need some assistance. And it's a lottery process. So good luck. And then also in our sub-district, the Hawaii Health Harm Reduction Center, they're having their monthly not food drive, but food distribution. It'll be at 1 p.m. Their office building is right across of SALT, Kaka'ako. So please, for those who are in need, please spread the word and come on down and help yourself to some nourishment. Thank you. And thank you to Hawaii Health Harm Reduction Center for providing this for our community. Mahalo.
Thank you, Member Farinas. Member Davis.
I just wanted to add something to the pedestrian safety that has been on my mind for a while. And again, stole it from someone else, so I can't take credit for it. But I saw someone one time put their flashers on when they were driving to just make other people aware that someone was crossing the street. And I've proceeded to do that. And I don't know if there's any, I don't think it's illegal to do. You're just bringing people's awareness to it. But maybe like a public safety announcement or push to encourage people to do that or something catchy. I one time asked ChatGPT to give me 20 catchy phrases for something like this, but I really think every vehicle is equipped with hazard lights. And, we have these flashing things and it costs the city money to put them in, but if we can encourage people to take part in public safety, and if you see someone trying to cross the street, to help make other drivers aware of it, we do have an issue with people not really paying attention to it. And that's just an additional layer that I think as a community can really be beneficial to making sure that pedestrians are safe crossing our streets. So I do it. I encourage other people to do it. It has been really effective, at least when I've seen it. So it could be something to just encourage more community members to do and just, create more awareness about pedestrians crossing our streets.
Thank you, Member Davis. Member Mariano.
Yes, just to go back what Member Rice mentioned about the QR code. At the last meeting, we've talked to some of our representatives because they have their bailouts. And I would say so that we could increase the awareness and also to receive more input suggest that we send the QR codes to all our representatives because they put out every month a new. And by having a QR code, they can put the tiny URL so they can come back, or they can send it to that office that's being sent out. So that way we can have the feedback.
Thank you, Member Mariano. Ms. Gomes actually put the link in our box. So for the legislative offices that are online, if you guys can pick that up. And if, again, a request from the board to add that, we can send the QR code as well. That would be greatly appreciated. Member Chang.
Real quick, this was just given to us, I guess, recently. Looks like the Kaka'ako Waterfront Park was transferred from Department of Land Management to Department of Parks and Recs. So we got new people to jump on their case on when things go wrong at the waterfront park. But hopefully the Parks and Recs will do a really good job on taking care of that area. It's pretty heavily used, especially on the weekends, and looking forward to that. One thing about the McCoy Pavilion, I'm assuming that Parks and Recs are going to have some sort of grand opening for the facility. I would assume that they would, or yeah, a dedication, rededication. Okay, maybe they can invite the neighborhood board. I think that'd be a nice thing for them to do. That would give us also some much needed publicity with the people, and I'm sure it'll be very well attended by those members who are able to. So it's just a thought. We don't get invited to much stuff ever, but I think this might be a way to really integrate the neighborhood board and give us the awareness that I think we can use. So a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Chang. Any other board members? Any other board members? Okay, for my sub-district, I just want to bring back up the graffiti by the former Ross. I know we've brought it up a few times, and the way that I kind of saw things panning out was the last time something like this happened was with the old Long's store on apologies, the Walgreens on Kapiolani and Keomoku. And at that time, former council member Say had, he did his research, reached out to the owners, and that triggered a cleanup of the area. So if we can get, I guess at this juncture, council member Nishimoto's office, who oversees the area as part of his district, to be able to look into that further, because the graffiti is getting, it's getting more prevalent. So just wanted to bring that up again. Member Mariano.
Yeah, that's where it gets to the point where it's property versus public. And so, again, it's, I guess the Ross was leased or whatever the case is, but that's where the gray line is. And that's why graffiti just continue to multiply, because it's whose jurisdiction it is. But it's a community. And I think that's why I continue to emphasize that, because it just makes the whole community looks like we don't care. And we do care. And so we just need to get some help. And as we also know, HPD does their best to enforce the laws. But then there's that gray line where it's private property versus public. And so thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you. And thank you for you advocating to make sure that, our neighborhood does look nice and clean. So thank you, Member Mariano.
Chair, can I add something?
Member Van Brink.
Because I know I did actually speak to the commercial realtor for that about 5 weeks ago. And I believe I shared at the last meeting how there was a new business that was leasing it. At the time, he did tell me that it being drafted, so it hadn't yet been finalized. So he wasn't even able to tell me who the new business was, but he hoped it would go through expeditiously. I think as we can see from the district, nothing has changed necessarily. So I do hope to reach out to him before the next meeting. And I'm happy to share his number as well with you guys if you wanted to bug him as well. So hopefully we can get something done on this.
Send it to Representative Nishimoto's office.
Yep, I can definitely do that. And in terms of the owners, I did actually look that up. I think the only one that we are actually able to contact is First Hawaiian Bank, who's one of 5 owners of the property itself. So I would actually include that to Councilmember Nishimoto as well, that First Hawaiian Bank is a partial owner, and if he can reach out to them and hopefully as a, community issue, possibly pay for someone even to just clean up the building until the new leasee takes over. That would be really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Vanderbrink. Appreciate that. And Member Mariana as well. The time is now 7:08. Let's move on to residents and community concerns. Do we have anyone from the community who would like to speak? Okay, go ahead, sir. Step up to the mic there and introduce yourself so we know your name for our records.
Hello, my name is Jade Kakunti, and I live in Kaka'ako, right off of Kamaka'a and Queen. And I'm just here observing and just want to introduce myself. I have 2 dogs. I'm also a pilot, and I'm trying to profit to do animal rescue. So say hello whenever you want. I'm a very friendly guy. Thanks.
For being here this evening and introducing yourself. And again, if you ever want to present on an issue, just let our board know and then we can have a segment for you for that. Okay, anyone else from the community? Answer. Thank you. And if we can have you introduce yourself again, welcome back to our neighborhood board. Yeah, oh, Mike is over there, Mr. Washburn. Oh, absolutely.
And I'm very sorry that I pin these on the way out the door, Mike. That's when the printer goes. I mean.
Thank you.
Anyway, this is going to be. Hi again, I'm Ian Washburn from Atkinson neighborhood. I live 419 Atkinson, to the old Central YMCA. And I'm here to respond to the May 27th presentation by the WISE representatives regarding their request, I guess, upcoming request for a zone change. And before I get started, may I ask a question of the board? Okay, the question is, the presentation on the 27th of May by the representatives of the board, the people from Towel Corporation, was that the meeting, the presentation that has to be part of the application process? You understand what I'm saying? Because the application process to apply for a zone change says you have to go to the neighborhood board and make a presentation, and you have to alert or notify all owners of adjoining properties of that presentation. Now, I'm pretty sure I can speak for myself and my neighbors that none of us received any notification. So I'm wondering if that meeting on the 27th, if they're going to be able to go to the next step of the process and say, oh yeah, we gave a presentation. Because anyway, to your knowledge, was that it? Or are they going to come back for a vote, or how does it work?
So again, I'll answer this to the best of my knowledge. Like, we are an advisory board. We actually don't have the checklist of what he was working off of. But when he does come with a presentation, it may count. Don't quote me on that. It may count. As far as notices go, I don't know how technicalities work, but neighborhood board agendas do go out with that agenda item to Ms. Gomes, if you're able to help us out, not necessarily that, like the number of homes or, the addresses that the agenda goes to, that would be a no. I don't want to quote because I'm not, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a, but just as a heads up, like that is one way that they may have alerted the neighborhood as far as what the requirements are, as what they need to do, or what counts as a notice. that we would need to go back to them and ask them.
Well, that's the whole point is I've asked them, I've asked the people at Towel, I've asked DPP, I've asked the CEO and president of, and none of them will give me an answer, you know, so, so anyway, I don't want to waste my time right now. And second of all, email things to each board member individually. Is that possible? And is there somewhere a list of your email addresses?
There is. So if you look right there, honolulu.gov/NCO has information in all the neighborhood boards.
Very good. I'm burning my time here on procedurals, and I'm not getting to the heart of the matter. I don't know if anybody saw, I wrote an open email to the CEO and president of the Honolulu YMCA, and I sent it out to all of our in the neighborhood, all of our elected officials, with the exception of the mayor, of the governor. But anyway, and then to a whole bunch of other people that are neighbors. So this is if I can just very quickly go through this, and I think I did try to give each of you or most of you a copy of this. I'm sorry I didn't have enough copies, but you have it electronically in terms of my written, this is sort of, I don't want to get bogged down here, but there are real questions about what are the intentions of the Honolulu YMCA board and management regarding the development of their property. As you know, 12 years ago, they got the thing jacked up to AMX3. They can go up 350 feet. The city gave it to them, the CNC, the council gave it to them. But then the council said, well, you can have it, but you got to have this little requirement, and that is that you provide 60 units of affordable housing either on the site or somewhere within a mile or whatever. Okay. Now, that's 12 years ago. In 12 years, the YMCA has not been able to sell that property. That is their number one thing. About 10 years ago, they closed down all services and programs, et cetera, and all that remained was the residence building, which is primarily rented out to people like Section 8 and so forth and so on, which is, I don't have any objection. Most of my neighbors don't have objection to that per se. So that's not really the issue. The issue is, what are their intentions? And we asked them, like last time I was here, May 27th, if you remember, the CEO was sitting there and I looked at him and I said, I'm on my knees begging you to please communicate with us in the community. Not a peep. Okay, not a peep from him, not a peep from Towel Corporation, not a peep from DPP, not a peep from anybody. So we don't know what's going on. So anyway, that's a little bit of the history there. I'm asking, I don't think they'll ever do this, but we're hoping, the people in Atkinson neighborhood are hoping that the Y will have sort of a convocation of stakeholders and people like maybe City Parks and Recs, and I don't know, Larry Ellison, I don't care. Some people that can come in, people with some bucks, like somebody said, you can't provide simple solutions to complex problems. Although sometimes people have a vested interest in keeping problems complex. Let's not forget that, and making it so obscure and dragging it out so long that most people just throw up their hands and say, "Oh, screw it! Oh, heck on it! We'll let them do what they want." I got a life to lead. So anyway, that's that. And let's see. No, that's not that quite that. Now, this is an important point. It's number 3. Those of you that have a copy there, or if you're watching, or if you're reading it online. Number 3, for many decades, the Central Y was Atkinson neighborhood's beating heart. People of all ages benefited from its programs and facilities. Some very old people had been going there for fellowship and healthy activities since they were themselves young. Many Central Y clients feel that after a lifetime of mutually beneficial and mutually supportive relationship, the Central Y betrayed and abandoned its own credo of benefiting the community. 4, we need to understand very clearly that in our fragmented society, healthy human relationships within one's neighborhood are the best way to combat the pervasive loneliness and hopelessness that give rise to drug use and other antisocial behaviors. In Atkinson neighborhood, one of the best ways to reduce costly and distressing breakdowns in healthy human relationships is to renovate the Central Y to full functionality. Then that facility can continue doing the work it has always done, the work of providing people with a place for fellowship while engaging in healthful behaviors. 5, it really doesn't matter whether that facility wears the YA brand or whether it operates under a sign that says Honolulu Parks and Recreation, Ala Moana Community Recreation Center. What matters is that people will be sharing fellowship with others while engaging in healthy activities, sitting idle and alone.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
I think
Over
the
time?
Okay.
time.
I've just got this much to read. Can I just?
Madam Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Washburn, we do have the written copy and we acknowledge you for coming here today.
Just read the last paragraph, the last sentence, because this is key. And remember that all these buildings on this 1.77 acre recreational complex have good bones. That means they're structurally sound. Return to functionality by mostly interior renovation along with resurfacing the roofs. Once the damage caused by the deferring of maintenance is reversed, the heart of Atkinson neighborhood will start beating again. And then lastly, I say, are you listening, Mayor Angiardi? Okay,
Mr. Washburn, thank you for being here this evening and providing us written copies.
I'd be back. So how do I get myself agendized so I can make a, with
You
this-
can let me know. You
I'll
can
let you know
email me.
right now?
Yes.
Okay, because so you.
So we can talk about it and then we can figure out what exactly you'd like to present on.
I'm exhausted. I need to go home. So can I?
Yes, I mean, we have a month until.
I want to make sure I.
Hi, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna chime in. You can just email the chair, Chair Lee, if you want to be on the agenda for next month. Yep, that's the more formal way to do it.
My dog and pony show, like the slides and stuff. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Member Vanderbrink?
I just wanted to ask, you mentioned talking to DPP and to the CEO, but did you reach out to Councilmember Nishimoto, who would be in your district?
Yes, she was CC'd on the,
Councilmember Nishimoto.
yes,
Okay.
I believe all of our elected representatives, except the federals and the mayor.
I just wanted to add, because I'm not an expert on the process, but for zoning changes once, because he already presented here, it's out of our hands, but it would have to be voted on council level at the final stages. So especially you can talk with him to share your views. And once it does go to a vote there, you can provide testimony to the city council on that.
Right. Well, I'm taking it upon myself and this organization that I'm forming, the Atkinson Neighborhood Community Association, part of our main mission is to just educate people about how do these processes work? How, where's the flow chart on this thing, Because like I said, some people have vested interest in keeping the water muddy.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Washburn. We appreciate you being here this evening. Hey. Do we have any other resident and community concerns? Okay. Let us move on. It is now 7:20. Elected official reports. We have Mr. Ben Sullivan from Mayor Blangiardi's office.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the board, it's good to see you. I think this is the earliest I've gotten to testify at one of these meetings, so it's quite a privilege. I'll try to keep that trend going with this testimony. So Ben Sullivan, Director for the Mayor's Office of Climate Change, Sustainability and Resiliency. A couple of quick comments on the meeting tonight that I thought deserves a little bit of reflection. Ms. Emma Davis talked about her traffic or means of making pedestrians more safe. And I just wanted to point out that the Department of Transportation Services actually has what is called a zero or a Vision Zero pledge going right now. And it's really exactly that. It's for people to say, as you're driving, be more careful and look out for pedestrians and bicyclists. And so it's something you can do, and they give you a free bumper sticker and or a sign if you take that pledge. So I encourage folks to do that because it is exactly intended to raise awareness about those issues. Let me see. Member Chang looked for an invitation to the Kaka'ako Waterfront Park. And I just want to say that I think we can invite you all to something far more grand, which I will take back and work on, because this is one of the items I'm reporting on tonight. This is really a ministerial process. So the City Department of Land Management is just transferring the ownership of the property to the City Department of Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation already manages it. So really, this is a paper thing only, and it has to do with the fact that there was a right of entry between, I think it was the Japsam
Center and DLM that since expired, which now that it's expired allows the property to be transferred to another agency. So really that's all that's happening here. And you have all the information and what was provided to the board. So if there's questions, I'm happy to answer them, but it's really just that it's the waterfront park parcel and the one immediately adjacent that backs to Cavallo Basin that really covers like the break wall along the rest of that side of the park. So I don't know if there's questions on it, but I'm happy to answer. I got a couple other items on my agenda that I could just run through. Okay, let's do it. So if you haven't seen Mayor Blangiardi's June newsletter, I think some of the most inspiring and incredible stories in here relate to years of service from city employees. There's a lifeguard named Bill Ingram who has put in 46 years as a lifeguard and just retired. So that was celebrated. There are some 9 employees of the Department of Transportation Services that have done over 50 years of service, including drivers, one dispatcher, and somebody who I think does like steam cleaning for the facilities. So really, I can't imagine, you know, like just that's such an incredible amount of service to the public. I think that might be all I have. I do have one report back. We all recall that there is a piece of sidewalk, and I think it's actually, if I'm not mistaken, Member Mariano, correct me, but I think there's a piece of sidewalk that had heaved up that's just opposite the public service building on Kapiolani. Is that right?
It's on the corner of Kapiolani and Pensacola.
Okay, so I was close,
Right.
but it's a little further,
It's-
Diamond Head side. Yeah,
That's correct. Yeah. So when you get to that corner,
yes.
there's that fence. When you take that right, it's right there as soon as you get off the crosswalk.
So my good friends at the Department of Facility Maintenance, who you all know are the ones that have probably the biggest job in the city, and they're always backed up. They gave a tentative date of September to try to get to that item, and we, you know, that's the best they could offer at this time, given how backlogged they are. But they're aware of the issue. DPR has communicated, and I think Department of Parks and Recreation had already said they're going to be there as soon as DFM goes in and does the excavation because they want to inspect the roots and make a determination on the health of the tree and like, can they trim the roots and all those kind of things. So all I have, and so happy to serve this board. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah,
Thank
Ben.
you. Member Mariano.
Yes, Ben, thanks for always going out, taking our questions and reporting back. But just as we talked about, you know, pedestrians, right? There's laws passed a couple of years ago that if you're a pedestrian walking in a crosswalk, you should not have your headphones on. You should not be texting. So it's not just the drivers, but it's the pedestrians as well. And so if we have these books on the, have these laws on the books, we should enforce it. If we don't enforce it, then maybe get rid of the law. And the reason for that, the law was because we had a high increase in pedestrian casualties, injuries, but mainly casualties. And so it's not onus on the HPD, but maybe if you can take back to the mayor, once in a while, some of these laws that was created a couple of years ago, putting out public announcements, you know, these spot things. I mean, that's what it's for, because as people get older, particularly during high school, we need to ensure that we put this awareness out. And that's the only way we can make it so that pedestrians and vehicle drivers can be aware.
Thank you, Member Mariano. Do you want to go ahead and address that, Mr. Sullivan? Okay. Member Davis and then Member Chang.
I was just going to mention a similar thing on kind of enforcement. I think this is actually more of state, but it's a combination state county. And I've seen kind of an increase in scary pedestrian car close calls with the new no right on red, you know, places. And it's, I think, again, a mismatch of continuity between county roads and city and state roads deciding whether there's going to be a no right on red or not. And anytime I think there's not consistency is that, you know, we're going to have a higher people following it. So I don't know if it's, you know, do we go all one way or is that a conversation with states to go back the other direction? But lots of people turning into pedestrians because they think they can turn right on red. And now pedestrians are crossing the road at that time. So just, you know, things that don't seem to be aligning and we're almost kind of seem to be going the opposite direction. I know that's more of a state thing. And then my other question is, you know, again, the education piece is always my big thing. And yes, in the K-12, but I've always had the question, is there a department responsible for public education specifically after K-12?
Outside of public
Like
education,
public
general
education
public.
for
So the city does have a community services department, and they do some broad public education, and they have some of that responsibility, but it's not clear to me that this issue in particular would be one for them. I think this is really a Department of Transportation Services issue, and I did just share one of their campaigns in terms of what they're doing about it. But I think that, that public education, as we know it from a commercial standpoint, is this massively invested thing for commercial purposes. And generally in government, it's difficult. And I think, Council Member Nishimoto has been mentioned a lot tonight. This is his district. It's really difficult for them to look at the various expenses we have to deal with and knowing how bad the backlog is in DFM, and then to say, oh, let's spend $5 million on a campaign to do X or Y.
right.
And generally, we don't have the same robustness. But I will say that Mayor Blangiardi has put a huge emphasis on communication in his administration, and so we are doing quite a bit in that regard.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
I think, and I think you guys have been working towards more streamlined communication, and I'm going to kick myself for not knowing this, but the app that I'm supposed to have downloaded. Nope, the other one, the new one.
It's something alert. See, I should know it too. I gotta look it up.
Yes. But, something like that where it's a one-stop shop. I think, like you said, every department's kind of responsible for their own education. And when one community member has to keep up with every single department in order to be educated on what's happening, that makes it very difficult. So I think, finding a way to centralize it or making sure that people know where the centralized area is to get information. It's also the news, so, working with that, and news is changing a lot with the increase in technology and where people get their news. But, I think that's a big piece of it is just, how are people knowing where to get educated, or, can they even access all of the information that they need to in an efficient way that doesn't put the onus on them, but puts the onus on, the people that represent them.
Thank you. Member Chang.
Okay, I don't know if you guys remember, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, they had this big crackdown on jaywalking. And that was the one thing that scared probably the bejesus out of most people, because they were getting fined on this. And they had undercover cops walking around like anybody else. And you got caught jaywalking or walking, like texting or whatever, you got fined. And you know what? It stopped it immediately. And then, after that, I guess they figured, oh, this is good enough. The public's they got it. They're not gonna do this anymore. Maybe it's time to bring it back. I'm not a guy that is for this, because we had a resident manager that in my building that it was a small street on the side, wasn't a major thoroughfare. He just jaywalked it. He just happened to jaywalk in front of a police officer who was sitting in his car, and he got issued a fine and taught him a lesson. And quite frankly, as far as I could tell, it was very effective. But I'm not saying that you need to do that, but just a thought that, enforcement does work. And if it'll save one life, I think it's worth it. And it's a pain in the butt to the public, and I'm sure it's the same thing for the HPD, but the campaign doesn't have to last that long. That stuff stays with you for a while. So just my suggestion.
So I do want to respond to that one. I try not to respond to too many of these, but since there's several comments on the quote unquote jaywalking, and I don't know if you all are familiar with the term, but it actually was a term that the automobile industry created in like the 1900s so they could sell more cars. So I think we need to be careful about some of this language and some of the way we phrase this stuff. You're talking about people driving around in 3,000 to 4,000 pound vehicles. That's the danger, right? Somebody walking across the street is not the danger. Yes, they're putting themselves at risk, but they're not putting others at risk. And I think the responsibility needs to lie with the person who's creating the hazard. And so, and there's a lot of data that supports this. This is a conversation that DTS, I'm sure, would love to come back. You guys remember Renee, who spoke to you before? She'd love to come back and talk about this. So appreciate what you're saying, and certainly there is some onus on the pedestrian for their own safety. But the reality here is that we're talking about large vehicles moving quickly with people using their cell phones. That's very different than a pedestrian using their cell phone, because the only person they're endangering as a pedestrian is themselves, whereas that large vehicle could take 15 people out. And so, you know, like, let's be careful about this. And let's also, maybe the last thing I'll say is let's inform with data. So we can look this up, and I'm not going to cite it today, but we can look up these things and figure out who's getting hurt, why, and under what circumstances, as opposed to just kind of saying, hey, let's and remember, Chang, I know you have a good enough sense of humor for me to offer this, but let's not just gravitate to the simple solution as we talked about earlier. So thank you.
Thank you. Member Vanderbrink.
Hi, Ben. So if I can just move it off topic from the jaywalking. In our action committee, we talked about the empty lots. I know Member Davis did mention how I was trying to research it. It is quite an onerous task to look through all our neighborhood here and list down all the empty lots. I was wondering if DPP or any other relevant city agency has a list of empty lots or abandoned buildings in the area that they might be able to provide us to help us with our research and possible drafting of a resolution.
So I don't know the answer to that, but we can certainly put it down, and we can send that question to DPP and see if they can provide a response for us and see what kind of information they have.
Right, perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Member Vanderbrink and Mr. Ben Sullivan for being here this evening. Appreciate you.
Thank you all.
Moving on to item 7.2, Councilmember Scott Nishimoto or his office representative. We see Ms. Sophia Anderson online.
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'll be giving the report for Councilmember Scott Nishimoto tonight. I added our e-blast to the chat so everyone can access that or sign up by clicking the link, as well as our office information. Thank you, Jeannie, for the shout out. Just to reiterate what Jeannie said, I received an update about the McCoy Pavilion Rehabilitation Project, and it is in its final stages of construction. A pre-final walkthrough of the portico area is scheduled for Thursday, June 26th at 10 a.m. There is no confirmed date yet for public use or event hosting because the work is still ongoing in the courtyard and portico areas, but as soon as I receive any new updates, I'll keep y'all informed. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to pass those along to council member. And that completes my report for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sophia Anderson. Questions from the board? Okay. Member Mariano.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully you took some of the notes of some of the discussions that was made earlier, that you can take that back to Council Member Nishimoto, because the discussions were very, very open and honest from the residents and also from the board members, that we would like to see if we can have some type of report back next month.
Yes, I did take notes about the graffiti and the sidewalk that's heaved up, and you can always email our office with more information, and I'm happy to look into that for you. Thank you.
Ms. Sophia Anderson on behalf of Councilmember Scott Nishimoto. Moving on to Councilmember Tyler Dos Santos Tam or his office representative, Ms. Robin Hensky. Are you online? Okay. Member Vandenbrink, go ahead.
So I know Councilmember Dos Santos Tam isn't here, but I did just want to mention that the sewer fee bill did end up passing the city council in between our last neighborhood board meeting. So it might be good to carve out some time during the next meeting to try and get more details on it, because it will raise our rates. It will change us more to an adjustable rate. And I know there are questions about how that will affect condos, which are very relevant in the area, especially if the building pays as opposed to the individual. So it might be good just to carve out a little bit of time and to make sure it's on our agenda so the community can come and pose their questions if they have any.
Member Vandenbrink, thank you for bringing that up. And if you could make a note to remind us for our, future meetings. Moving on to Representative Ikaika Oles, I see that he had dropped his report in the chat. He may be online as well, possibly. I think I saw him earlier. Representative Olds.
Yes, sorry, I had to jump off for a little bit. Yeah, just real quick, I already kind of posted the announcements for this month. So HB 943, my homeless mental health and substance abuse treatment program, hopefully is going to be signed into law in the next couple weeks. So hopefully that puts a dent into our homeless issues that we're experiencing in our joint communities. The next part is for the members in my district. The legislative priority surveys are going to be arriving in your mailboxes in the next few weeks. I believe everyone in your precinct 4, outside of maybe 2 or 3 buildings, are 100% mailed. So if you do live in those 3 buildings that I can knock on your door, I will be in your area next month. I'm slowly making my way west from Kapahulu. So be on the lookout for those. Hopefully we get them back and we're able to get some legislative movement based off of what is returned. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Rep. Olds. Board? Okay, no questions from the board. Representative Olds, thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Representative Adrian Tam.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for having me. My newsletter was dropped off to the neighborhood board prior to this meeting, and I hope that you all have it and are having a good read about it. For us, in terms of constituent concerns, we have had complaints about one chicken making noise rooster around the Alawai Promenade, and we are working diligently to resolve that issue. That is the constituent concern that I've got in the area for that I represent. In terms of the legislature, yesterday we did have a very long informational briefing about the Hawaii Tourism Authority. As tourism chair, I want to reassure the public that the legislature is moving forward with their best efforts to try to provide some vision, leadership, and path forward for this authority. And we have already began drafting legislation for the 2026 legislative session on this issue. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them to me. Otherwise, you can email them.
Thank you, Rep. Tam. Board Member Rice.
Good evening, Representative Tam. I have a question. Don't most people think that there's a duplication of effort between the authority and the Hawaii Visitors Bureau? Don't they do the same thing for all intents and purposes? And I just feel it's a redundancy. And you need management of the convention center, that's for certain. And you need a sales team for the convention center to bring meetings and conventions both internationally, nationally, and locally to the convention center. But as someone who's been in the visitor industry almost my whole life, I just don't get it. HTA was created when I was not here. I was away for 20 years and came back. And well, I knew a little bit about it, but then when I come back, it's just, they pretty much do the same thing. Why don't the 2 agencies consolidate and hire new staff? I think what Governor Green did was terrific, because HTA to me just seems like they rubber stamp things, and thing they do is repeat, repeat, repeat. There's nothing new and exciting that they do to attract business to our shores statewide, not just Waikiki and our district. But Visitor Bureau does the same thing. So could you expand on that a little bit, especially for those who may not be a part of that industry, and give us your feelings, if you would, please? Thank you.
So thank you for your question. So to expand on what HTA does, HTA was supposed to be a governing board to help the visitor industry and to manage it. We have provided the agency with the mission to also provide destination management and stewardship, which is not something that they've done before, but they've also contracted that out to an outside agency to do it. But what you're absolutely hitting the nail right on the head is that it is redundant. And last year they did do a governance study and it was published by experts. And the governance study basically asked that HTA be dissolved and we form a new organization called the Destination Stewardship Organization, which is supposed to be acting as a nonprofit to do destination management and stewardship. And we contract out to HTA. Not HTA, HPCV. So what I can say is that this governance study was done by experts in the visitor industry, and their recommendations is the same practice that other states have adapted to handle their tourism, such as California. What I've been disappointed about this agency, this tour authority, is that they basically saw the study, didn't like the results, and kind of sat on it and did nothing until I brought it up yesterday, a month ago to them. And only now they're starting to seriously take a look at it. But I did ask our office to begin drafting it based off of the governance study, what a bill would look like on that.
And what are you eating the bill?
Well, the
One.
study recommended 10 recommendations. The first one is to just establish a destination stewardship organization. What I can do is I can drop the study in the chat box right now, and you can read the report. It's 60 pages long, and that's basically what the bill is going to look like. It's a very complex bill that I do not have the time to explain right now, but
Thank
I can
you.
send it to you.
Okay, thank you, member. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. One more question, please.
Okay.
California, well, they may have a destination management agency. You have major cities, San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, that they have their own visitor bureaus that market themselves, which also helps to market the state overall. So it's a much bigger place than Hawaii. And those three major cities are very important to the economics of the state. Hawaii is small. We don't need both. We really, in my opinion, we just don't need both. We just need one strong visitors bureau or Hawaii Tourism Authority, whatever the heck you want to call it, and have them responsible for destination management, for filling the convention center, for bringing business and meetings and conventions to Hawaii and the FIT market. You don't need two. It's a waste
Member
of
Wright.
taxpayers' dollars. Pardon?
I understand your frustration right now, so I will repeat what I've just said to you, which is that you hit the nail right on the head, and what you're asking for is in the governance study.
Thank you.
Thank you, member Rice and Representative Tam for being here tonight and answering our questions. Member Vanderbrink.
Sorry, I'm sitting out of your eye line over here. Representative Tam. So I just want to say that I did tune in for much of that meeting. And, I think you did understate how frustrating it was to hear from HTA there. My question, though, is in the meeting, you mentioned how there was a lack of discipline and a lack of punishment, especially towards the former leadership of HTA, which much of them left over the last few years, and who are ideally responsible for a lot of these financial issues and penalties and a lot of the other things, like the $1.8 million Rams contract was all done by the previous leadership. So I just want to ask, is there anything that the legislator can do to hold them accountable, or at least be able to publicly say they are responsible and it's not necessarily the current leadership, it's the previous one?
I mean, there really isn't anything we can do now that they have been that they've left. I think that I don't know exactly what happens. That's why we had the informational briefing, so that we could get answers. But what we did kind of uncover was that there was a lack of disciplinary action that is at the agency. And we are asking that, and the new CEO has indicated that they are putting policies in place for disciplinary action so that something like this doesn't happen again. I did bring up that it was hypocritical or weird that they would discipline someone so harshly over insensitive remarks that happened 2 years ago, which they apologized for, but not punish someone for non-payments, procurement violations, and whole other ethical issues. But that has not been brought up, and I can look into whether or not we can discipline individuals after they've resigned.
I understand. I mean, at the very least, I'd hope maybe you can reach out to them and have them as part of an informational briefing as well, so you can pose these questions to them, so you can ask them directly why they did the certain things they did. Because at least, be frank, a public shaming is better than nothing, which seems to be happening where they resign from the board, they resign from their positions, wait a year or two, and then go back into the industry, into another part of government or the private sector, and then nothing happens to them. So I hope at the very least you can extend invitations to them during any other future informative meetings you have, so you can actually pose these questions directly to them instead of getting the non-answers that you got from the HTA CEO yesterday.
Thank you, Member Vanderbrink.
I will say that that is not our plan to bring them back in to question them. I think we understand what happened, and we are now trying to put in place policies so that it doesn't happen again. As I have said many times, I have moved onto the governance study right now, and I want to try to reassure what's happening at HTA doesn't happen between the 6 months that we have between now and the next legislative session.
Thank you, Rep. Tam, for being here this evening. Appreciate your report and responding to our questions. Moving on to, thank you, Representative Kim Coco Iwamoto or her representative. I see Ms. Kate Ozawa online.
Evening, Chair, and good evening, Board. I don't believe I've ever presented in front of you before. My name is Kate Ozawa. I am Representative Kim Coco Iwamoto's office manager. I'll be very brief. In the chat, I have posted her latest newsletter along with a link to subscribe to her e-newsletters. This one is just about the state and the city are about to reopen their Section 8 lottery, lottery housing lists. So if you know someone in need, or if you are in need, please check out the information. This information can also be found on Rep. Iwamoto's social media, so her Instagram, and I am here for any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Ozawa. Board? Member Chang.
Can we get them to put our little survey thing on their newsletter?
With the new due date of, and it's now going to be open till July 31st. And while you mentioned it, I'm just going to say, let's create a little inter sub-district competition. Sub-district 3 has 69% of the responses, followed by people that don't live in our neighborhood with 18%. 10% are from sub-district 4, and 3% are from sub-district 1. We have not had anybody from sub-district 2 fill out our survey. So whoever is responsible for them, we're watching you. So I'll share with Jeannie and she can let you know how the sub-districts do next time. But we do have 66 responses. I've shared it with Amelia if she's able to share it, or Chair Lee can share it out too. And you guys can take a photo if you want to share it around to your sub-district as well.
Thank you. So Mrs. Ozawa will email that QR code over to you. If Representative Iwamoto can add it to her newsletters, that'd be great. Thank you for being here this evening. Okay, moving on to Senator Sharon Moriwaki or her office representative. I saw Mr. Joseph Kopsche online.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Let's see if I can get there we go. I'm Joe Copshaw. I'm from Senator Milwaukee's office. I work with her specifically on her CIP projects and ensuring that those things kind of come to fruition. So on that, everybody within her district should have received her recent newsletter, which highlighted a lot of her CIP projects. We've been receiving a lot of questions and kind of requests for information on those things that we're sifting through. So if you did ask a question or email us one, I am going through them all. There's just a lot of questions that have been answered. So you should be hearing from me shortly. On that, just so everybody knows, if you have any questions about what CIP is and how we can use it to make the district a better place, feel free to ask those questions as well. Other than that, the biggest thing that's coming up right now and that we're paying a lot of attention to is the governor's veto list. That should be coming out shortly. And so just being aware of how that might impact both us, the budget, and the state as a whole. But other than that, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're always available. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
I
Pop-
dropped the neighborhood board report in
Thank
the
you,
chat.
Mr. Kopsche, for that report from Senator Milwaukee's office. Board. Member Vanderbrink.
Thank you. So I have a question for Senator Milwaukee in relation to a Civil Beats article that involved Senator Dela Cruz. The article basically stated how he voted on the Senate counterpart to HB 496, which directly tied to the packaging of Mamaki tea, which Senator Dela Cruz actually owns and operates a business that is directly related to Mamaki tea. And according to Senate rules, that's actually a clear violation that he did not actually disclose. He did not go to the Senate president and ask for a conflict review.
Sorry, Member Vanderbrink, I'm going to have to table that because I feel like the discussion is veering away from neighborhood board issues, but I understand what you're saying. And I understand that it is relevant because it is part of the Senate. So if we could take that offline, and so we can continue the discussion with Senate. But I feel like
Okay.
it's veering away from neighborhood board discussions right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, Governor Josh Green's representative from DCCA.
Hi, everyone. I sent in the governor's newsletter into the chat earlier. Just a quick overview. It opens up talking about the green fee that was signed into law. So what that is, it's a climate impact fee. We have 10 million visitors a year, and so we're just trying to gain some revenue back that can go towards fighting climate change. And so that's going to be starting in 2026, and it's expected to generate 100 million annually, which is great. This was briefly touched upon earlier, but there is a review of the partnership between the LA Rams and HTA to promote tourism. So some details in the newsletter if you're interested there. Also, the Department of Agriculture continues to battle the coconut rhino beetles. If you see a tree that's been treated with pesticides, don't eat the coconuts. There's more information in the newsletter. And then also special education students are making history at Waipahu High School by earning college credits through an early college course. And there's a picture of them in the newsletter. It's really heartwarming. So definitely check out the newsletter. And then I'm from the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs technically, and a little tidbit there is that we are putting out a public service announcement this month. You'll see it likely throughout the next year, and it's on the importance of hiring a licensed contractor. So if any of you are doing renovations, your neighbors are doing renovations, just make sure you're working with licensed professionals. But I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Stallings. Board? Okay, moving on. Thank you for being here this evening. Agency reports. HCDA, if you're online. I thought I saw Ms. Francine Murray.
Hi, aloha everyone. I'm Francine Murray from the HCDA. Oh, is the video working? There. Aloha, it's good to see you all this evening. I wanted to thank Member Rice for bringing up the updates on the dog park and the public storage. She's correct. We issued a notice of violation to the public storage and we were told that they'll be working on their landscaping. I've also put a link to our newsletter in the chat. It features articles on vacation rentals in Kaka'ako. Recently, we've been getting a lot of phone calls and emails asking if they're legal in Kaka'ako, which they are not. So that article details how they can be reported and the process. There's also an article about HCDA's planning efforts for Kaka'ako Makai that will be coming up in 2025. Are there any questions for us?
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Questions from the board? Okay. No questions. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Honolulu Board of Water Supply. Is anyone here from? Oh, okay. Sorry. Hart. Apologies.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Harry Cho with the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation. I'll be replacing Marissa moving forward and attending the board meeting. So great to meet you all. The only update I have to share is that Hart will be hosting a design workshop for the Chinatown Rail Station this week. Oh, sorry, I should be sharing my screen. Just 1 second. All right, so Hart will be hosting a design workshop for the Chinatown Rail Station this week. On Thursday, June 26th, 6 p.m. at Ke'elikolani Middle School cafeteria. The workshop will be open to the public and is a great opportunity for everyone to provide their input and ask questions about the preliminary design of the Chinatown station. There will be two workshops held for each station, each of the 6 stations that are in the third segment of the project, with some of the stations potentially being grouped together. Those meetings will take place throughout the rest of this year and into next year. So we definitely encourage everyone to attend those and provide their input on some of the design features of the stations being built in your neighborhood. We don't have any of the other workshops scheduled currently, but we will be announcing those details on our website and social media as the dates are finalized, and we can share it with the board as well. If you aren't able to attend in person, you could still submit your comments through an online form, which you can access through this flyer, which I dropped the link to in the chat. But hopefully we will see everyone there in person on Thursday. But that is the only update I have for my report, and I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cho. Questions? Member Farinas.
Hi, Harry. Thanks for being here. I just have a quick question for this particular location. Is this the station that's going to have the cantilever design for the station?
Yes, that's correct.
And is there any other stations that would utilize that kind of design as well? Or just the Chinatown station in particular?
From what I heard, it's only the Chinatown station, but I could confirm that and get back to you next month.
Okay, thank you, board members. Any other questions? Okay, moving on. Thank you for being here tonight, Mr. Cho.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to announcements. We have the Honolulu Night Market. They did present at a previous board meeting. That's going to be on July 19th. We do have our social media accounts. Our next action committee will be on Thursday, July 10th, 2025. And again, the interim chair for that will be Member Rice. Interim vice chair will be Member Vanderbrink. Our next regular board meeting, which will be for the 2025-2027 board, will be on Tuesday, July 22, 2025. And Olelo Broadcast, you guys know where to tune in. And that is it. We are adjourned at 8:01 p.m.